Delving into the Rambam, we're going to start with just a short amount today in Hilchos Malachim. And it says over here, and this is Hilchos Malachim in Perek Ches, Halacha Yud, that Moshe Rabbeinu, it says over here, says that he didn't give the Torah and the mitzvahs Elul Yisrael. And we're going to delve into this more, but we're going to see that Moshe Rabbeinu did translate the Torah into 70 languages. So what does it mean that he didn't give the Torah other than to Bnei Yisrael? It means to say that as the responsibility, the Yerusha that we have, we are the carriers of the Torah, is something that is given over to the Bnei Yisrael. Shenemar Marasha Kehilas Yaakov. This is the inheritance of the congregations of Yaakov. Anyone who wants to convert from the other nations of the world, they are able to. Person doesn't want to, you don't force them to take on this obligation of carrying the Torah from generation to generation as the Yerusha. So similarly, Moshe Rabbeinu commanded from the mouth of Hashem. This is a divine revelation from the mouth of Hashem to force all the inhabitants of the world to accept the mitzvahs that were commanded to Bnei Noach. So to take on the job of being an inheritor is not something that we are obligated to do, but to make sure that every human being recognizes Hashem and fulfills the Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach is an obligation. And it doesn't here actually say the word Sheva bit mitzvahs Bnei Noach. It says l'kabel mitzvahs shenitztavu Bnei Noach, because we're going to see as we continue to learn that there's many more mitzvahs that apply to Bnei Noach than just the 7. V'chol mi shelo yikabel yaharik. The degree to which this responsibility is placed on Bnei Yisrael is that if a person is not accepting this, then their reason for existence ceases. Makabel isam hu hanikra ger teshav b'chol makom. We can discuss the concept here of the ger teshav at a later time, but a person has this special status, the ger teshav. And then he takes this on in front of 3 chaverim. Person took upon himself to circumcise himself, and it went on 12 months, and then he reverts. He doesn't become, but he didn't actually do the circumcision. Then he is like the rest of the nations. Yud Aleph, Kol HaMakabel Sheva Mitzvahs. So here he does mention particularly Sheva Mitzvahs, Nizhar Lehisayson, and someone who's careful to observe them. Harizeh Chassidei Umas Ha'elam. This is a person who's called Chassidei Umas Ha'elam. Now, there's a key point over here, is that it does not call them Bnei Noach. Bnei Noach is everyone that exists. Every human being is a son of Noach. But Chassidei Umas Ha'elam is a special category for people who are observant of these mitzvahs. And I believe that is the proper terminology to use in reference to these righteous human beings who take on the observance and are careful in the observance of the mitzvahs that were given to all of mankind, is Chassidei Umas Ha'elam. V'yesh lo chelek la'olam haba. This person has a portion in the world to come. And this is so long as the person receives upon himself to do these mitzvahs because Hashem commanded it, and informed and made the information was transmitted and informed us through the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu. That Bnei Noach from before were commanded in these things. So it's not enough. You see today sometimes people want to follow the Abrahamic tradition, or they want to follow Noach knew this. So since a person is the son of Noach, automatically, why can't he just follow because it was commanded to Noach? And the answer is because in order to have the categorization, to merit the name and the description of being a Chasidei Umas Ha'olam in this special place, not only in this world, but in the world to come, a person has to be accepting it because it came through Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. This is the key. And this is why we are obligated to teach it, and the teaching must come through us because we are the extensions of Moshe Rabbeinu, and our job is to transmit it. And they must learn it from us in that role. This is a special responsibility placed upon us to teach. Aval ima some if a person does it because it makes sense to him, he is not a ger teshav. He's not from Chasidei Umas Ha'olam, and according to this version of the Rambam, he is not even one of the wise people. And that's an interesting question, what the Rambam means over there. But here I want to focus on the basic concept that according to the Rambam over here, that we have to recognize that the person who just does it because it makes sense. Why would the Rambam say such a thing is not from Mechachmehem? It's not from one of the wise people of the world. And there is a girsa that says, Ele Mechachmehem, he's from the wise people from the world. But according to this girsa, he's not, even from the wise. Why would that be the case? I think the answer is that the Rebbe refers to the fact that the source of the Holocaust was removing God from the educational system in Germany. And then once human logic is the only arbiter, is the only standard by which a person is going to act, then human logic can dictate anything. And so if a person says, according to my human logic, I will keep the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, on one hand, it looks superficially very nice because the person is going to do all these good things, because they're going to say, hey, it makes sense to worship God. It makes sense to not kill people and so forth. And the answer is, Rambam is saying this is not even among the wise of the world, because the wise of the world know that there is a spiritual source, there's a godly revelation for these concepts. And that in order for them to endure in the world, they have to be rooted in this godly revelation. Merely understanding it and then separating it as a good rule book, something to follow, will lead to the disintegration of those rules and the disintegration of civilization. The only way, so that's not a wise person. A wise person sees what is going to be. Is a chacham haraya as a neilad. If you can't see that from just understanding on an intellectual basis is going to lead to the disintegration of civilization, then you're not a chacham. No matter how clever your legal arguments are, and no matter how clever you can write and speak, if it does not have the humility of connecting to a divine giver, then it is not something that will endure. And on the contrary, it will lead to the worst and most terrible, God forbid, of outcomes, because it's not rooted in anything godly, and it's not based on a divine understanding. Rather, it's based on a human understanding, which is always subject to further erosion and further thoughts. So therefore, the Rambam is making it very clear, and this is really an important part for our role in teaching the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, is that this is not merely getting if someone's not killing anybody and hasn't robbed anybody and is not doing anything wrong, the answer is not to applaud them. It's not just merely to applaud them that they're not doing anything wrong. You have to work with them until they can come to see and know that it comes from God above, and that is the key of teaching the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, such that the people of the world become Chasidei Umas Ha'olam. And that's the ultimate intention. Everyone's meant to be one of Chasidei Umas Ha'olam.